Quadrants of Mental Health. This is your host, AJ, coming to you today with another exciting episode. We would like for you to like, share, and subscribe. We're trying to get our numbers up, you know. There was a brother that said, help a brother out, HBO. I like that. That's funny. Not trying to steal your thing, man, but I just thought that was so funny. Today, we're going to talk about cognitive and emotional conversations again. And I like this subject. I'm going to say again because it needs to be repeated. I had a client who was a doctor, and every time I meet with him, I always start with cognitive and emotional conversations because his process is logic. Whenever I meet people who are numbers people, like accountants, and talk to them, I have to talk about cognitive and emotional conversations because they're very logic-based. They're process-oriented, okay? So one of the challenges we have in, I would say, communicating with one another, be it male, female, especially male to female, the dynamics there is incredible. Men tend to be very logical, and I'm just using it as an average. You know, if you think about the bell curve, that's one of the things I want to bring out today, the bell curve, and how it helps you to understand data and statistics, okay? So when you think about the bell curve, we can speak in generalities a little bit. That don't mean that everybody fits in the same bucket. That means that there's a large percentage of people that will fit within that bell curve, okay? Whatever the bell curve is based on. Could be based on 80%, 90%, or 50%, whatever. But there are a certain number of people that are going to fit within that bell. A lot of times in communication, I've been watching a lot of videos on YouTube, and they tend to want to talk about that 1% that's way out here, or that 2% that's way out here, when we really, a lot of the hosts are talking about, in general terms, they're talking about the generalities of it, and unfortunately, people want to bring up that exception to the rule, not the rule, okay? I'll give you an example. They say that 1 out of 4 black women will get married in their lifetime, okay? And the numbers change, or your probability of that happening based on your age, your weight, and personality. A lot of those things factor in because men are physical. But when I see the dynamics on screen, they always talk about that one person who's the exception and not looking at the overall number of people. Because when you look at 1 in 4 is going to get married, that means 75% of women are not. That's huge. So why would we talk about that 1% or that 5%? When we really should be looking at that 75%, and how can we get that bell curve to smooth out so that we have the majority of people doing those things? Because back in the 60s, black people were married at a rate of 80%. Okay? That's the difference. I mean, it's almost a pendulum swing if you look at it from a bell curve perspective. Okay, so I'm going to keep saying bell curve because I want to put that on the screen so you can see what the bell curve looks like, and you should be able to apply that to statistics, okay? Now, a lot of times when I would say content creators talk about things, they get statistics from, I'm going to just name a few. Kevin Samuels talked a lot about blackdemographics.com, the CDC, you have the census, World Health Organization. And, you know, if you want to be funny or coy, you can look at Facebook and other social media outlets. You know, they are steeped in the algorithms and learning your patterns. So they have real numbers. They have real data. So if you think that data is irrelevant because this one person is not in that statistic, then you're misinterpreting the data, okay? And a lot of times with men and women, we think differently. We see things differently, and that's okay. But here's the thing. If you're going to create healthy communication, if you want to have a healthy relationship with someone, then you have to understand that there are going to be differences, but there are some generalities that we should be able to agree on. When I say generalities, we're talking about some factual data that is relevant to whatever we're talking about, okay? Such as, I'm going to go back to that male female again. When a woman reaches the age of 35, that is considered geriatric pregnancy, okay? Now, you can talk to me about the 45-year-old or the 50-year-old who had a baby, but is that the norm? That's the question that you have to ask yourself. You know, you get a lot of yeah, but, or, well, this person made it. Okay, that's fine. But let's look at the bell curve. Within that 35-year range, that's when they consider geriatric pregnancy, which means it's dangerous. The person can die. So if you're going to prioritize relationships, and I'm going to say prioritize relationships, don't just say I'm going to have a baby, because the relationship of husband and wife should be there first. My opinion, backed up by data, okay? That should factor in. So you really want to really look at the facts of it. But a lot of times when I watch programming on social media, they always talk about how they feel. And 9 times out of 10, it's the woman who's talking about the feeling aspect of it, and the man is talking about the logic base of it, okay? That's why I say a cognitive conversation communicates values to the emotional child or person. When I speak logically to people that I'm in relationship with, be it old relationship, new relationship, they don't hear what I say. They feel what I say. They get caught in their feelings, okay? And just another Kevin Samuelism. My wife gets mad when I mention his name, but I'm going to say it again. He talks about sign. This is what women use, okay? And a lot of the, they call it the manosphere. A lot of programs on social media now are really geared towards men, which never happened before, because when I was growing up, we had a lot of programs for women, a lot of meetings for women. But so now to see an influx of programming geared towards men and teaching men how to be men, I think is great. But some women, I'm not saying all, but apply the bell curve to this, okay? They use sign, and it says the shame, insult, guilt, and the need to be right. Rather than looking at the facts, they will tell you how they feel, okay? Is that conducive to a healthy conversation? Probably not, because a lot of times when they're speaking from their feelings, they're using an anecdotal story or someone who made it versus looking at the masses of people. Because if you have another Kevin Samuelism, he would say that 80% of black women are overweight, and 80% of them are obese. Okay, so now you're going to say that body positivity should matter more than the statistics? These are the arguments that people get into when really there's no argument. That's the fact, okay? You got the World Health Organization, you got census, you got Department of Labor and Vital Statistics. These are places you can go to get this data. So a lot of times when we have conversations, are you backing it up with data, or you're backing it up with opinion? That's the challenge. So remember I say a cognitive conversation communicates values. They don't hear what you say, men. When you use logic, even with your children, with your family, they don't hear you. They feel what you say. They internalize what you're trying to communicate to them, okay? And a lot of times, you know, we get this friction there if instead of telling me, we need to learn how to ask good questions and let them think. Teach them how to think. Let them problem solve it themselves, because when they have to think and process it, then they have to do what? Be logical. The more questions you ask, the more logical they will become. But when you give that data, when you cite, well, in blackdemographics.com, they're going to say, well, no. It's irrelevant. You're wasting your time. We want to get to the place where we're having healthy conversations, healthy relationships with both male and female, both, I'll say, parent and child. Okay, and the way to do that is you have to, logical men, and there are logical women too. Remember I said statistically there are more men who are logical. Apply the bell curve to that, okay? We're not saying that there are no logical women, okay? We don't want to talk about the 2%. We're talking about the majority right now. And we can't say that there are no emotional men. There are. But we're talking about the majority right now, okay? Which is in the bell curve. And I want to put that bell curve up there so you can see what it looks like and get a visual of that. Because a lot of times when I teach, I talk about the iceberg, and I use the iceberg a lot to describe behaviors and fear, stress, and trauma. But today we're talking about that bell curve and how it can apply to looking at data and seeing what's real and what's not real. Because a lot of times when we talk logical, men, they get in their feelings. And here's the flip side of that. Sometimes when women talk logical, we get in our feelings. Okay, so it works both ways, but men tend to be more logic-based, okay? That's the bell curve. That's the generality that I'm trying to put out there today. So when you watch videos on YouTube, think about the bell curve and think about what's the general population doing, what's the general data is saying versus that 1% that you want to bring up or that 5%. I'll give you another example. I heard this years ago. 98% of people who work jobs will not retire with financial dignity. 98% of people who work jobs. So what does that mean? You have a 2% chance of being an employee and retiring with financial dignity. Okay? Apply the bell curve. So do we want to talk about the person who worked all their life and saved $6,000 a month as an employee, and when they retired, they could live off of $10,000 a month? You could, but that's not the majority. That person may be in the 2% or the 1% who makes it, okay? But the majority of people who work jobs, 98%, the U.S. Department of Labor and the Social Security Administration states that will not retire with financial dignity, meaning you're going to need help, or a lot of them end up dying. There's a percentage of that 98% that die before they even hit retirement, or as soon as they retire, they die. I know a lot of, there was a statistic years ago that talked about doctors dying in their 50s once they completely get out of debt. They're passing away. Statistics, looking at the bell curve, that doesn't mean that all doctors do it. That don't mean that all people won't, so we never say all. I hate to even use the word all. And in fact, when I was taking tests, this is one thing we learned. Whenever you see the words all or always, it's always false. There's never a situation where all, don't everybody, no one, not, I can't even say everybody's going to like my content. If I believe that about myself, then I'm delusional. Okay? So you want to look at statistics and data in a manner of applying the bell curve that's going to make sense to you and keep it logic-based. But men, when you talk to women, you got to remember some, not all, some women, they will get in their feelings and they will use sign, shame, insult, guilt, and the need to be right. And now what you've done is just perpetuated a argument that continues, and then it gets to a point where as soon as I see you, black woman, I think all women, that's all they do. No, it's not all. We can't say all about any race or any nationality will do one particular thing, because there's a majority, okay? So I just wanted to bring that point out today. I don't want to belabor the point, but just remember, a cognitive conversation will always communicate values to the other person. They don't hear what you say, they feel what you say. Now, you heard me say that word always, because even when I talk to my children, they will get in their feelings. If I'm logic, if I talk to my spouse, they will get in their feelings. Okay? They don't hear what you say, they feel, they interpret, they internalize. So we want to learn this lesson in life and develop healthy communication skills so that we can grow and work through problems, okay? Remember my process. We get knowledge. We have to practice to develop the skill set, and then we'll be able to discern, Okay, so where are you in that process? Are you knowledge-based, practicing, or skill set? It takes skill. It's try, fail, and adjust to get the skill set. Okay? With that being said, we'd like you to share, like, and subscribe. Thank you for your time, and God bless.